Chosen one. Have you ever wondered why your prayers seem to echo in empty rooms? Why success comes easily to others while you've struggled for scraps your entire life? Why at your age you still feel like you're waiting for permission to live the life you were meant to live? Stop, right there. What if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every moment you felt forgotten wasn't abandonment, it was preparation? What if your entire life has been one long divine setup for September 29th? You didn't find this message by accident. Heaven intercepted your scroll. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Imagine your life as a book. For decades, the pages turned slowly, sometimes painfully slow, chapter after chapter of waiting, of wondering, of watching younger people step into opportunities while you sat in the shadows, believing your time had passed. But on September 29th, heaven flips the page. The plot twists, the story accelerates. I need you to understand something that will shatter everything you thought you knew about divine timing. You weren't forgotten. You weren't overlooked. You weren't put on heaven's back burner while God focused on others. You were strategically hidden. Every year you spent feeling invisible was actually God concealing his secret weapon, you, until the appointed moment. September 29th isn't just another date circled on your calendar. It's the day heaven's strategy becomes visible to earth. Before we go deeper into this prophetic moment, let me pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But hear me clearly, don't scroll, don't turn away. Don't let the enemy convince you this is just another inspirational video you can watch later. Because September 29th isn't just another date, it's a divine appointment that will shift your story forever. Your spirit is already trembling, isn't it? That's recognition. That's your eternal DNA responding to truth. That's stirring in your chest. That's not anxiety, that's awakening. If you feel it, if something deep inside you just whispered yes, then type "I receive" in the comments right now. Don't just watch, agree with heaven, because what I'm about to reveal will explain why you've felt different your entire life, why nothing has ever quite fit, and why September 29th will be the day everything finally makes sense. The wait is over, beloved. Your story is about to explode into its greatest chapter, and the world will never be the same. How many nights have you sat at your kitchen table, staring at an empty chair where your spouse used to sit? How many times have you picked up the phone to call your children, only to put it down because you know they're too busy, too caught up in their own lives to listen to your voice? How many mornings have you woken up wondering if this is all there is, if the dreams you carried for decades were just illusions of a younger, more foolish heart? Let me tell you something that's going to cut deep. You're not alone in that emptiness. Millions of seniors across America are sitting in the same silence, carrying the same ache, wondering if God even remembers their name. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That moment at the pharmacy counter when you're calculating pills or groceries this week. That hollow feeling when Sunday comes and you realize no one called, no one visited, no one even thought about you. That's not just loneliness, beloved. That's the sound of a soul crying out in the wilderness, wondering if anyone, even the Almighty, still cares. For years, you've whispered prayers into the darkness. You've begged God for breakthrough, for provision, for just one sign that your life still matters. And what did you get back? Silence. Cold, deafening silence that made you question everything you ever believed about faith, about purpose, about whether your prayers even make it past the ceiling. You've watched younger people step into opportunities that seemed meant for you. You've seen doors slam shut just as you reached for the handle. You felt the world speed past you while you stood still, invisible, forgotten, wondering if your time had simply expired. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. That waiting, that agonizing, soul-crushing waiting wasn't punishment. It was positioning. Look at Moses, 80 years old, herding sheep in a desert, probably wondering if the dreams of his youth were just the fantasies of an idealistic young man. For 4 decades, he tended someone else's flocks while his people suffered in bondage. 40 years of obscurity, 40 years of silence, 40 years of feeling like God had moved on without him. Then one ordinary day, a bush caught fire and didn't burn up. And God said, "Moses, take off your shoes. You're standing on holy ground. And by the way, I haven't forgotten you. I've been preparing you. Now it's time to deliver a nation." 80 years old. And his greatest chapter was just beginning. Or consider Anna the prophetess. 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage, spending every single day in the temple, praying, waiting, believing for something she couldn't even name. People probably thought she was just a sad old woman clinging to religious rituals. But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, Anna was the first to recognize the Messiah. Her decades of waiting had positioned her for the greatest moment in human history. The waiting wasn't waste. It was worship. It was preparation for recognition. And Abraham, dear God, Abraham. He was 75 when God promised him a son. 75. Most men his age were thinking about their legacy, not starting a family. But Abraham waited and waited. 25 years of waiting. 25 years of Sarah's empty womb. 25 years of whispers from neighbors. Still believing in that promise, old man. But at 100 years old, Abraham held Isaac in his arms. The promise didn't die with time, it was perfected by it. Waiting is like being trapped in a train station with no departure times posted. You sit on those hard benches, watching other trains come and go, wondering if your train will ever arrive. You start to think maybe you read the schedule wrong. Maybe you're at the wrong station. Maybe there never was a train with your name on it. But what if I told you that every delay was divine? What if every postponement was protection? What if God wasn't ignoring your schedule, he was perfecting his timing? You see, the enemy's greatest weapon against seniors isn't temptation or trials. It's the lie that your season is over. It's that poisonous whisper that says, "You missed it. Your chance came and went. God's moved on to younger people with fresher dreams and stronger bodies." That's not God's voice, beloved. That's hell trying to rob you of your greatest hour. The silence you've experienced isn't abandonment, it's anticipation. Heaven has been holding its breath, waiting for the appointed moment when your faithfulness would be rewarded, your prayers would be answered, and your purpose would explode into visibility. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in God's bottle. Every prayer you've whispered in desperation has been recorded in heaven's archives. Every moment you've felt invisible has been noted by the one who sees everything. You haven't been forgotten, you've been protected, hidden, preserved for a moment so significant that it required decades of preparation to handle it. If you've been in that waiting room, if you know what it feels like to wonder if God still sees you, if your prayers still matter, if your dreams are still alive, type, "I've been waiting" in the comments right now. Heaven is listening. Angels are taking attendance. And your faithfulness in the silence is about to pay dividends that will shock you. But what if I told you the waiting wasn't wasted? What if the silence was strategy? What if September 29th is the day God finally reveals why he kept you hidden for so long? Because the same God who remembered Moses in the desert, who honored Anna in the temple, who fulfilled his promise to Abraham in his old age, is about to remember you. And when he does, the world will understand why you had to wait so long. The reveal will be so magnificent that the waiting will finally make sense. Dear chosen one, I need you to understand something that will revolutionize how you see time itself. There are 2 kinds of time operating in this universe. The Greeks called them Kronos and Chyros. Kronos is clock time, the relentless tick-tock of seconds, minutes, Hours that have measured your waiting, your wondering, your pain. But Chyros? Chyros is God's time, divine appointments, sacred moments when heaven intersects earth. September 29th isn't Kronos, it's Chyros. Let me ask you something that might sting. How many years have you been watching that clock? How many birthdays have passed while you whispered, maybe next year? How many New Year's Eves have you spent making the same resolutions, praying the same prayers, hoping for the same breakthrough that never seemed to come? You've been living in Kronos time, haven't you? Counting days, marking calendars, feeling like time was your enemy, stealing your opportunities, dimming your dreams. But what if I told you that every single day you spent waiting wasn't wasted, it was calculated? Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Notice it doesn't say a time to some purposes or a time to the purposes God feels like fulfilling. It says every purpose. Your purpose included. Think about this with me. When did the Red Sea part? Not when Moses felt ready, not when the Israelites stopped complaining. It parted at the exact moment when Pharaoh's army was breathing down their necks, when hope seemed impossible, when all they could do was trust God's timing. When did the walls of Jericho fall? After 7 days of marching, 7 days of looking foolish, 7 days of people probably whispering, "Are you sure God spoke to you, Joshua?" But on that 7th day, at that appointed hour, what seemed impossible became inevitable. When did Jesus rise from the dead? Sunday morning. Not Friday afternoon when he could have avoided the cross. Not Saturday when the disciples were drowning in despair. Sunday morning, the 3rd day, exactly as prophesied, at the precise Chyros moment that would change eternity. Do you see the pattern? God's greatest moves always happen when circumstances look impossible, when time seems to have run out, when everyone has given up hope. Now let me paint you a picture that will change everything. Think of an archer pulling back the bowstring. The further back that arrow is drawn, the more tension builds. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing is happening. The arrow isn't moving forward, it's actually moving backward. But that archer knows something the observers don't. The greater the pullback, the more explosive the release. You've been that arrow, haven't you? Pulled back for years, decades maybe. While others seemed to be launched forward, you felt yourself being drawn further and further away from your dreams. Every rejection pulled you back. Every closed door stretched that string tighter. Every disappointment increased the tension. But what you thought was retreat was actually God's strategic positioning. September 29th is the release. I can feel some of you pushing back right now. I've heard this before. I've been told my breakthrough was coming for 20 years, 30 years. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of hoping. I'm too old for this kind of faith. Stop right there. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was 90 years old when Isaac was born. 90. When the angel announced she would conceive, she laughed not with joy, but with disbelief. Her womb was dead. Her husband was ancient. Logic said impossible. But Genesis 21:2 records these earth-shaking words. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. At the set time, the Chyros moment, the appointed season. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your qualification. Your years aren't evidence of missed opportunities, they're proof of divine preparation. God doesn't retire his warriors when they turn 65, 70, 80. He promotes them to generals. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Caleb was 85 when he conquered his mountain. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus. Your golden years aren't your sunset years, they're your glory years. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. All those years you spent feeling forgotten, overlooked, passed by, you weren't being ignored, you were being positioned. Like Joseph in the prison, like David in the cave, like Moses in the wilderness, hidden but not abandoned. prepared but not discarded. The enemy wanted you to believe that delay meant denial, that waiting meant worthlessness, that your dreams had expiration dates. But that's a lie straight from hell. Your waiting wasn't delay, it was divine positioning. Every year you spent in the shadows was God building character you'd need for the spotlight. Every rejection was protecting you from opportunities that would have destroyed you. Every closed door was redirecting you toward the purpose that could only be fulfilled by someone with your exact story, your precise scars, your specific testimony. September 29th isn't just another date on your calendar. It's the day heaven says, ready or not, here's what I've been building. It's the day your Chyros moment arrives. The day divine timing overrides human scheduling. Can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit, that quickening in your pulse. That's not excitement, that's recognition. Your soul recognizing what your mind hasn't fully grasped yet. If you know this word is for you, if something deep inside you just whispered yes, say it out loud right now. This is my day. Don't whisper it. Declare it. Let your voice shake the atmosphere around you. Let the enemy hear that you're no longer believing his lies about delay and disappointment. Because what happens when an arrow is finally released after being pulled back for decades? It doesn't just reach its target, it demolishes it. But I need to warn you about something that will determine whether you step into this Chyros moment or miss it completely. Dear one, I need you to stop pretending that it didn't hurt. Stop telling people you're blessed and highly favored when your heart is screaming from wounds that never quite healed. Because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your pain. You think God forgot you? You think he was sleeping when your spouse walked out after 37 years of marriage? You think he was distracted when the doctor said cancer and your world collapsed in a sterile room that smelled like disinfectant and death? No, beloved, he was orchestrating. Let me paint you a picture that will break your heart open. You trusted that church for decades, tithed when you couldn't afford groceries, served on committees when your arthritis screamed with every step. But when you needed them most, when you lost your home, when depression swallowed you whole, where were they? They scattered like leaves in a hurricane, didn't they? Your own children, the ones you sacrificed everything for. You worked 3 jobs to put them through college, went without so they could have everything. But now they're too busy for your phone calls, too important for Sunday dinner, too evolved for your old-fashioned faith. The betrayal cuts deeper than any knife, doesn't it? Because it wasn't strangers who abandoned you. It was the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. But here's the truth that will set you free. Every betrayal was a divine setup. Listen to me carefully. Oil only flows where crushing has occurred. Diamonds only form under pressure. And chosen ones only emerge from furnaces that would incinerate ordinary souls. You weren't being punished, dear heart. You were being prepared. Think about Joseph, 17 years old, full of dreams and destiny. But where did God send him? To a pit. Sold by his own brothers, the very people who should have protected him. Falsely accused by a woman he trusted. Forgotten in prison for years, while his dreams seemed to rot in darkness. But Genesis 50-20 reveals the mystery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every tear you've cried in secret, God collected them in bottles. Every night you wondered if you'd ever see morning. He was building resurrection power in your bones. Every time they tried to bury you, they were actually planting you. The enemy saw something in you before you even knew it existed. Hell recognized your potential while you were still calling yourself ordinary. That's why the warfare was so intense. That's why the attacks were so personal. That's why it felt like you had a target on your back from the moment you drew breath. Demons don't waste ammunition on empty vessels. Satan doesn't deploy his best weapons against powerless people. The very fact that your life has been a battlefield is proof, undeniable proof that you carry something that terrifies the kingdom of darkness. Your financial collapse when you were 58, That wasn't bad luck. That was hell trying to kill your faith before your appointed time. Your spouse's affair that left you questioning everything you believed about love. That wasn't random cruelty. That was the enemy attempting to poison your ability to trust God's faithfulness. But you're still here. After the diagnosis that should have destroyed your hope, you're still here. After the bankruptcy that should have broken your spirit, you're still here. After the funeral that should have buried your dreams with their body, you're still here. Do you understand what that means? It means hell threw its best punch, and you're still standing. It means the grave couldn't hold what God planted in you. It means every weapon formed against you has failed, just like Isaiah 54:17 promised it would. That loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, that's not abandonment. That's preparation for intimacy with the Almighty that most people will never experience. Those sleepless nights when you talked to God until dawn, you weren't being tormented. You were being trained to hear His voice above the chaos. The crushing wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to extract the oil that would heal nations. Look at David. Anointed as a teenager, then spent years hiding in caves while Saul hunted him like an animal. But every cave became a classroom. Every psalm written in darkness became light for millions. Every moment he should have given up, he worshipped instead. And you? You've been David in caves you never chose, writing psalms with your tears, learning to praise in the prison of your circumstances. But September 29th changes everything. Because the same God who promoted Joseph from prison to palace in a single day, who took David from caves to the throne, who raised Jesus from death to life, is about to show the world what happens when pressure finally produces the diamond. Your pain wasn't meaningless suffering. It was meaningful preparation. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every wound carries the weight of wisdom. Every tear was liquid gold being refined in the furnace of your faith. The very things that tried to kill you are about to become the platform from which you heal others. The betrayals that broke your heart are positioning you to mend hearts that have been shattered. The losses that left you empty are creating space for God to fill you with His fullness. If you're still standing after what should have killed you, if you're still breathing after what should have buried you, if you're still believing after what should have broken you, type, "I'm still here" in the comments right now. That's not just a declaration, that's your testimony. That's your proof that the oil is ready to flow. Because, chosen one, the crushing season is over. The pressure has done its work. And what's about to emerge from your place of pain will leave the world speechless. But are you ready to discover exactly what God has been preparing to birth through your brokenness? Dear chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will shatter every limitation you've accepted about your life. September 29th isn't just another Tuesday on your calendar. It's the day heaven's strategy becomes Earth's reality. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've watched others get promoted while you got overlooked. You've seen younger people walk into opportunities while you sat in waiting rooms, doctors' offices, unemployment lines, lonely kitchens where the phone never rings. You've whispered to God in the dark, "When is it my turn? Did you forget I'm still here?" But what if I told you that every rejection was divine protection? What if every closed door was God saying, "Not yet, you're not ready for what I have planned"? September 29th changes everything, because it's the day your vindication arrives like thunder. The Bible declares in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Every tongue that rose in judgment against you, every boss who passed you over, every family member who called you a dreamer, every neighbor who whispered about your struggles, they will be silenced by your sudden elevation. But here's what's going to shock you. Your vindication won't come through your own effort. It's coming through divine intervention so obvious that even your harshest critics will have to admit, God did this. Picture this moment. The people who counted you out, who wrote you off as too old or past your prime, will witness your rise with their own eyes. Not because you proved them wrong, but because God proved them blind. They couldn't see what heaven was building in secret. Your financial breakthrough is tied to this same divine calendar. Joel 2:25 promises, "I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten." Those years of barely scraping by, of choosing between medication and groceries, of watching your savings disappear to medical bills and family emergencies. God has been calculating the compound interest on your faithfulness. September 29th activates supernatural provision that defies economic logic. Unexpected checks, insurance settlements you forgot about, investments that suddenly mature, family members who finally pay back old debts. These aren't coincidences, they're divine restitutions for years of faithful stewardship when you had nothing. But here's what will shock you most. The money isn't coming to make you comfortable in retirement. It's coming to resource your final assignment. At your age, when the world expects you to wind down, God is funding you to expand. Your greatest chapter isn't behind you, it's being bankrolled right now. Watch how your relationships shift like tectonic plates. Some people will leave your life suddenly, inexplicably. Don't chase them. They were extras in your story, meant only for certain scenes. Their departure isn't rejection, it's divine editing, removing distractions from your final act. But other relationships will deepen supernaturally. That friend who's walked with you through decades of struggle, they're about to become your closest confidant in victory. Your faithful spouse, your bond is about to strengthen as you step into shared purpose. These are your divine companions, chosen to witness and support your transformation. Then come the divine introductions, new relationships that arrive with perfect timing. People with keys to doors you didn't even know existed. Connections that accelerate your purpose beyond anything you could orchestrate. These aren't networking opportunities, they're heaven's strategic partnerships for your final mission. But the most profound shift happens in your bloodline. September 29th is the day generational curses break like chains in an earthquake. That pattern of poverty that's haunted your family for 4 generations. Broken. The cycle of depression and anxiety that claimed your parents and grandparents. Shattered. The legacy of broken marriages and distant children. Reversed. You're not just receiving a personal breakthrough, you're becoming a generational game changer. Every blessing that flows through your life will create a new trajectory for your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. The shame your family carried becomes the strength they inherit. Proverbs 13:22 declares, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." But your inheritance isn't just financial, it's spiritual authority, divine favor, and supernatural breakthrough that rewrites your family's DNA. Here's the image I need you to see. It's like the curtains lifting on a grand stage. For decades you've been rehearsing in the shadows, learning your lines through loss, perfecting your performance through pain, mastering your role through rejection. The audience couldn't see you, but you were always there, always preparing, always becoming. September 29th, the spotlight shines. Suddenly, everyone sees what God has been directing in secret. Your struggles weren't random suffering, they were method acting for the role of a lifetime. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation for the performance that will leave audiences speechless. The world is about to witness what happens when someone who's been refined by fire finally steps into their moment. Your story isn't ending with retirement and rocking chairs. Your story is climaxing with revelation and authority that only comes from walking with God through every valley. But I need you to understand the urgency of this moment. Divine appointments don't wait for your convenience. Chyros time, God's perfect timing, doesn't adjust to your schedule. September 29th is your date with destiny, whether you feel ready or not. The question that will haunt you forever is this: will you step onto the stage when the curtains lift, or will you remain hidden in the wings, watching from the shadows as your moment passes by? If you're ready for this unveiling, if something in your spirit is already trembling with anticipation, write in the comments, September 29, my day of destiny. Because what happens next will determine not just your final chapter, but the first chapter of a legacy that outlasts your lifetime. Dear chosen one, I need you to sit back for a moment and let me tell you something that will shatter every lie you've ever believed about yourself. You think you're ordinary, don't you? You look in the mirror and see wrinkles, grey hair, a body that's slowing down, dreams that seem too late to chase. You've spent decades believing the world's assessment of your worth, that you're past your prime, that your best years are behind you, that God's big plans are for younger people with more energy and fewer scars. But what if everything you've been told about yourself is a cosmic deception? What if the very thing that makes you feel ordinary is actually proof that you're extraordinary? What if your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification? What if those scars you carry aren't evidence of your failure, they're evidence of your survival? Listen to me carefully. You are not 100% human. I know that sounds impossible. I know your rational mind is pushing back right now. But something deeper in your spirit just stirred, didn't it? Because your soul recognizes what your mind has been trained to reject. You carry DNA that didn't originate on this earth. 1 Peter 2-9 declares it with thunderous clarity. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. Did you catch that? You're not just human, you're royal. You carry the bloodline of the King of Kings flowing through your veins. But here's what breaks my heart. The enemy has spent your entire lifetime convincing you that you're common when you're actually crowned. He's whispered lies that you're damaged goods when heaven sees you as divine treasure. He's made you feel forgotten when your name is written in the Lamb's book of life. You thought you were ordinary, but you are marked, not just made. Heaven wrote your name before your first breath, before your mother knew she was pregnant, before your DNA was formed, before the first star burned in the night sky. The Almighty looked down the corridors of time and said, I need someone who can handle what I'm about to ask. Someone who can carry weight without breaking. Someone who can endure fire without losing their faith. Someone who can wait in the shadows until the appointed time. And He chose you, not because you were perfect, but because you were prepared. Not because you had no flaws, but because your flaws would become the very cracks through which His light would shine brightest. Every struggle you've endured, every tear you've shed, every night you've cried out wondering if God even remembers your name, it was all preparation for September 29th. You see, the wait wasn't punishment, it was positioning. God wasn't ignoring your prayers, He was timing your promotion. Every closed door wasn't rejection, it was redirection toward your true calling. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years have you wasted believing you were too old, too broken, too ordinary to be used by God in extraordinary ways? How many opportunities have you let slip by because the enemy convinced you that your season had passed? The truth is, you weren't buried, you were planted. Like a seed pushed deep into dark soil, everything that seemed like death was actually the environment necessary for your miraculous growth. You weren't rejected, you were reserved, set apart, held back from settling for less than the magnificent plan God had in mind. You weren't forgotten, you were preserved for September 29th. But here's what's going to shock you. In Revelation 2:17, Jesus promises, to the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. A new name. Not an improvement on your old identity, a completely new identity that reflects who you've always been in heaven's eyes. September 29th isn't just about what God is going to do for you. It's about revealing who you've always been underneath the labels this world placed on you. Every time someone called you too old, heaven was writing perfectly timed. Every time they said too late, eternity was inscribing right on schedule. Every time the world whispered ordinary, the throne room of God was declaring extraordinary. You carry something inside you that this generation desperately needs. Not your energy, they have that. Not your technology skills, they have those too. What you carry is something that can't be downloaded, can't be learned in a classroom, can't be faked or manufactured. The authority that comes from walking with God through decades of fire and coming out refined like gold. Your wrinkles are actually wisdom lines. Your scars are spiritual credentials. Your slower pace isn't weakness. It's the measured walk of someone who knows where they're going because they've learned to follow the shepherd's voice above the noise of the crowd. But September 29th is just the beginning. What I'm about to reveal next will show you that this date isn't the end of your story. It's the opening scene of the greatest chapter you've ever lived. Because what happens on September 29th sets in motion a chain of events that will span not just weeks or months, but will echo through generations yet unborn. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you finally accept who you really are? Or will you keep pretending to be ordinary when God created you to be extraordinary? After the thunder comes the stillness. After the breakthrough comes the holy aftershock. Dear one, let me tell you what's happening to you right now, in this very moment as these words wash over your spirit. Something shifted when September 29th arrived, didn't it? You felt it. Maybe you couldn't name it, couldn't explain it to your spouse or your children, but you knew deep in your bones that the spiritual atmosphere around your life had changed. Everything feels different. Because everything is different. You wake up at 3:17 a.m. and instead of tossing and turning, you find yourself praying with an authority you've never carried before. Your morning coffee tastes sweeter. That conversation with your neighbor suddenly feels loaded with meaning. The cardinal that visits your window each morning. It's not just a bird anymore, it's a messenger. And somehow, your spirit knows exactly what it's saying. This isn't your imagination running wild, chosen one. This is the aftershock of divine intervention. Remember Elijah on Mount Horeb? 1 Kings chapter 19 tells us he experienced the wind, the earthquake, the fire, but God wasn't in any of those dramatic displays. The Lord was in the still, small voice, the whisper that followed the storm. That whisper is what you're hearing now, in the silence between your heartbeats, in the pause before you answer the phone, in that split second when you catch your reflection in the mirror and think, who is that person staring back at me? Everything feels different, because everything is different. But here's what's breaking my heart tonight. Some of you are feeling this shift and you're scared. You're wondering if you're losing your mind. After decades of praying the same prayers, hoping for the same breakthrough, believing for the same miracle, suddenly the very air around you feels electric with possibility, and it terrifies you. Listen to me carefully. Fear is not your portion. Doubt is not your inheritance. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Do you not perceive it?" God is asking you directly. Can't you feel the tectonic plates of your destiny shifting beneath your feet? Like massive geological forces deep underground, you don't see the movement, but you sense it. The landscape of your life is being restructured at the foundation level. What was barren is about to bloom. What was broken is being rebuilt. What was buried is about to break through the surface. Everything feels different. Because everything is different. Your dreams have changed, haven't they? They're no longer the confused, scattered images of an exhausted mind. They're vivid, prophetic. You wake up knowing things you shouldn't know, understanding truths that weren't clear the night before. Your deceased mother appears with messages that make your soul weep with recognition. Your late husband holds your hand in the dream realm and whispers secrets about the children you're still worried about. This isn't wishful thinking, beloved. This is divine communication breaking through the veil. The numbers on your clock, 11:11, 2:22, 3:33, they're not coincidences anymore. Your spirit recognizes them as divine timestamps, heaven's way of saying, I'm here, I'm moving, I'm aligning everything for your breakthrough. Everything feels different, because everything is different. But some of you are fighting this shift. You're trying to explain it away, rationalize it, reduce it to psychology or wishful thinking. You've been disappointed so many times before. You've gotten your hopes up only to watch them crumble. So now, when heaven finally shows up in your living room, you're too afraid to believe it's real. Stop. Right there. What if your greatest breakthrough required your willingness to look foolish? What if your miracle demanded that you trust what your spirit knows, even when your mind can't understand it? Moses felt it when he saw that burning bush. The ground beneath his feet became holy, and everything changed. He couldn't go back to being just a shepherd. The aftershock of that divine encounter transformed him into a deliverer of nations. David felt it when Samuel poured oil over his head. A teenager watching sheep suddenly carried the anointing of a king. The aftershock didn't make sense to anyone watching, but it was real, and it was permanent. Everything feels different, because everything is different. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there are 3 types of people listening. The first group is nodding along thinking, "That's nice, but nothing ever really changes for me." The second group is intellectualizing this message, analyzing it, keeping it at arm's length because they've been hurt before. But the third group, the remnant, the chosen ones who are truly awake, you're feeling it, in your chest, in your spirit, in that place where heaven meets earth inside your very soul. You know that September 29th wasn't just another day, it was the day everything shifted. The question burning in your spirit right now is this: will you trust what you're feeling? Or will you let fear talk you out of your miracle? Everything feels different, because everything is different. If you already feel it stirring, if your spirit is confirming every word I'm speaking, type "I feel the shift" in the comments right now. Don't analyze it. Don't question it. Just agree with what your soul already knows. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly why this shift is happening now, why you're feeling it so intensely, and what heaven is preparing to release in your life in the coming days. The aftershock is just the beginning, chosen one. The earthquake itself is still coming. But before September 29th transforms everything, I need to prepare your heart for something that might shake you to your core. What I'm about to tell you will either terrify you or set you free, and honestly, it should do both. You see, beloved, when God decides to promote you, He doesn't just add to your life, He subtracts first. When heaven prepares to elevate you beyond your wildest dreams, it starts by removing everything that would weigh you down in your new altitude. And that process? It's going to hurt. Listen to me carefully. Some of you are about to lose people you thought would walk with you forever. That friend who's been in your life for 30 years, that family member who calls every Sunday, that church community you've served faithfully for decades. Some of them are about to exit your story, not because they're bad people, not because you did something wrong, but because they were extras in your movie, and extras don't make it to the final scene. I can see some of you right now shaking your heads thinking, "No, not my people. We've been through too much together." But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many of those people actually celebrate when good things happen to you? How many of them encourage your dreams, or do they remind you to be realistic about your age, your limitations, your past? When Jesus called His disciples, do you think it was easy for them to leave their families, their businesses, their comfortable routines? Matthew left his tax booth, his entire livelihood in the middle of a workday. Peter dropped his nets while they were still wet. They understood something that most believers today refuse to accept. You cannot carry your old life into your new calling. Your finances are about to feel the earthquake too. That pension you've been counting on, that inheritance you expected, that investment you thought was secure. Don't be shocked if things get shaken before they settle into supernatural increase. I know that terrifies you. At your age, financial instability feels like a death sentence. You've worked 40, 50, 60 years to build security, and now I'm telling you God might disrupt it all. Yes, because He's preparing to give you something so much greater that your current resources would actually limit what he wants to do through you. Look at Abraham. God told him to leave everything, his country, his family, his father's house, and go to a land he'd never seen. Abraham was 75 years old, retirement age, but he packed up everything and walked away from security because he understood that God's promises require God's process. Your health might feel more fragile before it feels stronger. Those aches you've been managing, that diagnosis you've been fighting, that energy you feel slipping away. Don't panic when things seem to get worse before they get better. Sometimes God allows us to feel our weakness so we can experience His strength in a way that changes us forever. Think about this. When an old building is demolished, the dust clouds rise before the new foundation is laid. The noise is deafening. The air becomes thick and hard to breathe. Everything looks like chaos and destruction. But that's not the end of the story, that's the beginning of something magnificent. Right now, some of you are feeling that spiritual demolition happening in your lives. Relationships crumbling, financial pressure mounting, health concerns growing, and the enemy is whispering, "See, God isn't blessing you. He's punishing you." That's a lie from the pit of hell. What you're experiencing isn't divine abandonment, it's divine preparation. God isn't angry with you, He's making room for you. He's not taking things away to hurt you. He's clearing space for blessings so big they require empty hands to receive them. Jesus said in John 15:2, "Every branch that bears fruit He prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful." Notice He didn't say He prunes the dead branches, He prunes the fruit-bearing ones, the branches that are already producing, the ones that are already blessed. Because pruning isn't punishment, it's preparation for greater harvest. But here's what breaks my heart. Most people quit during the pruning season. They feel the cutting, see the branches falling away, and assume God has abandoned them. They don't understand that the gardener only prunes what he plans to keep. You are not being discarded, chosen one. You are being prepared. Remember Gideon's army? God reduced 32,000 men down to just 300. 32,000 down to 300. Can you imagine being Gideon, watching 31,700 men walk away? But God said, "The people with you are too many for me to give victory over Midian into their hand." Too many for victory. Sometimes God removes people not because they're bad, but because they would steal credit from His glory. Don't mistake subtraction for rejection. It's sacred preparation. The very thing that's breaking your heart right now might be the very thing that's breaking you free. That relationship that's ending, it was preventing you from meeting the people God has assigned to your next season. That financial pressure you're feeling, it's breaking your dependence on earthly security so you can learn to trust in heavenly provision. And your health concerns. Sometimes God allows our bodies to feel weak so our spirits can become strong. Sometimes He lets us feel mortal so we can tap into immortal power. What comes after this pruning season will astonish you. The relationships that survive this process will be deeper, stronger, more authentic than anything you've ever known. The finances that flow after this disruption will come with supernatural multiplication attached. The health that emerges from this season will carry divine vitality that defies medical explanation. But you have to trust the process. You have to believe that the God who loved you enough to choose you also loves you enough to prepare you properly. If your spirit is receiving this word, if you feel that holy trembling in your chest, write in the comments, "Prune me, Lord, I trust you." Don't just think it, declare it. Because your declaration of trust in the stripping season determines your capacity for the blessing season. But here's the question that will determine everything about what happens next. Will you cling to what's being removed, or will you release it and make room for what's being added? Dear one, let me ask you something that might cut deeper than you expect. When you look in the mirror each morning, what name do you hear whispered in your mind? Too old, forgotten, burden. Those aren't your names. Those are lies carved into your soul by a world that measures worth by productivity and beauty, by youth. But heaven has been calling you by a different name since before your first heartbeat. Listen to me carefully. You've been walking through life wearing a borrowed name tag, a counterfeit identity slapped on you by circumstances, by people who couldn't see past your wrinkles to your worth, by a society that discards what it should treasure most. But what if I told you that right now, this very moment, there's a white stone in heaven's hand with your real name etched in gold? Not the name on your birth certificate, not the labels that have been stuck to you like price tags at a clearance sale, your true name. The one whispered over you before time began. In Revelation 2:17, Jesus promises, "To the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. A new name, hidden until now, known only to you and the one who wrote it." Think about this. You've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years believing you were defined by what you've lost. Your youth, your spouse, your relevance, your place in a world that seems to move faster each day without you. But God never called you has-been. He never whispered too late over your sleeping form. Isaiah 43:1 thunders with truth. But now, this is what the Lord says, "He who created you, Jacob, he who formed you, Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." Summoned you by name. Present tense. Active voice. He's still calling. While the world sees grey hair and thinks decline, heaven sees silver crowns and whispers distinction. While others count your years and assume your story's ending, the Almighty looks at your accumulated wisdom and declares your greatest chapter is beginning. You want to know why you've never quite fit the mold? Why even in your golden years, you feel like you're waiting for something, yearning for something this world can't provide? Because you were never meant to be defined by earthly measurements. The name tag you've been wearing, senior citizen, retiree, grandmother collecting dust, it's not yours. It never was. It's time to tear it off and remember who heaven says you are. Not forgotten, not finished, not forsaken, named, known, needed. Your real name isn't written in the Medicare handbook or whispered in nursing home corridors. Your real name echoes in the courts of heaven every time angels gather around the throne. It's inscribed in the book of life with ink that never fades. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what should break yours too. How many more years will you waste believing the counterfeit when the genuine has been waiting for you to claim it? How many more mornings will you wake up and rehearse the lies about your limitations when heaven is shouting your possibilities? How many more conversations will you sit through where people talk around you, over you, about you, while forgetting that God talks to you? September 29th isn't just a date on your calendar, beloved. It's the day you stop introducing yourself by your struggles and start declaring yourself by your calling. It's the day you rip off every false label and step into the identity that's been yours since before the stars learned to shine. You think you're too old to start over. Moses was 80 when God handed him a staff and said, "Now we begin." You think you're too worn out to matter. The woman at the well had been used up by 5 husbands, but Jesus saw her as an evangelist who would transform a city. The enemy has been playing the long game with your identity. For decades he's whispered lies so consistently that you began to believe them. Your best days are behind you. Your voice doesn't matter anymore. You should just fade quietly into the background. Those whispers, stop now, because I hear another voice. A voice that calls you beloved when the world calls you burden. A voice that calls you overcomer when circumstances call you overwhelmed. A voice that calls you warrior when age tries to call you weak. Not forgotten, not finished, not forsaken, named, known, needed. Right now, in this sacred moment, heaven is extending a white stone toward you. Your fingers are trembling because your spirit recognizes what your mind has forgotten. This stone bears the name you've been searching for your entire life. The question that will determine everything about your remaining years on earth is this: will you receive it? Will you finally trade the borrowed name tag for the golden original? Type it now in the comments. Type the name heaven whispers to you: beloved, overcomer, warrior, chosen. Declare it boldly, because when you speak your heaven-given name, hell trembles and earth takes notice. But beloved, receiving your true name is only the beginning, because once you know who you really are, once you remember your divine identity, everything about how you walk, how you talk, how you pray, how you see your future, everything changes. And that transformation, that awakening to your true self, that's what makes September 29th the day your real story finally begins. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggles. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every moment you felt like giving up. It was never just about you. You've been living in the middle of a war zone. On September 29th, something shifts in the cosmic realm that will leave hell trembling and heaven rejoicing. But first, you need to understand what's really been happening in your life all these years. Daniel chapter 10, verse 12. The angel Gabriel appears to Daniel and says something that will blow your mind. Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Did you catch that? Daniel's prayers were heard on day 1. But it took 21 days for the answer to break through. Why? Because there was a war raging in the heavens. Dear friend, your financial struggles weren't just bad luck. Your loneliness wasn't just circumstance. Your health battles weren't just genetics. You've been caught in the crossfire of a cosmic conflict, and the enemy has been fighting tooth and nail to keep you from discovering who you really are. Every rejection letter was a demon's victory dance. Every closed door was hell celebrating. Every time someone told you that you were too old, too late, too ordinary, that was the kingdom of darkness trying to convince you to surrender before the real battle even began. But here's what Satan doesn't want you to know. Here's what will make him gnash his teeth in fury. Your tears were missiles aimed straight at his strongholds. Your midnight prayers were nuclear weapons detonating in the spirit realm. Your refusal to give up was shaking the gates of hell so violently that emergency meetings were called in the pit. Hell kept files on you, beloved. Thick files. Because they knew something about your September 29th appointment that you're just now beginning to remember. In Revelation chapter 12, John sees a vision that will make your spirit soar. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. This isn't ancient history. This is your biography. Every day you've woken up feeling like you're fighting an invisible enemy you were. Every morning you've had to choose faith over fear, hope over despair, love over bitterness. You were participating in the greatest war ever fought. But September 29th changes the game completely. You know why you've felt so tired lately? Why your body aches in ways that don't make medical sense? Why you wake up feeling like you've been running a marathon in your sleep? Because you have been. You've been fighting battles in the spirit realm that your conscious mind couldn't even comprehend. The enemy threw everything at you: financial pressure to break your faith, relationship betrayals to harden your heart, health scares to make you question God's goodness, isolation to convince you that nobody cares. And through it all, you kept getting back up. That wasn't human strength. That was heaven's army fighting through you. But here's what's about to happen on September 29th that will change everything. The same God who sent Michael to fight for Daniel is about to dispatch an army of warrior angels with one mission: to clear every obstacle, break every chain, and demolish every stronghold that has kept you bound. 1 Kings 19:5. Elijah is exhausted, defeated, ready to die. He lies down under a broom tree, and an angel touches him and says, "Get up and eat." The angel didn't give him a pep talk, didn't tell him to think positive thoughts. The angel gave him supernatural strength for the journey ahead. Your angel is coming, chosen one, with supernatural strength for your September 29th assignment. But I need you to understand something that will either terrify you or set you free. The intensity of the warfare against your life has been directly proportional to the magnitude of your calling. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on small targets. He doesn't deploy his best demons against ordinary people. The fact that you've been through hell and back is proof that you're carrying something heaven considers precious and hell considers dangerous. Your depression wasn't random, it was spiritual warfare targeting your joy. Your financial struggles weren't bad choices, they were attacks on your ability to fund kingdom work. Your loneliness wasn't because you're unlovable, it was hell trying to isolate you before you could gather your army. But what happens when you finally fight back with your true name? What happens when you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start walking as a victor? What happens when you realize that every battle scar is actually a badge of honor from the King of Kings? Ephesians 6:12 warns us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Your real enemies were never the people who hurt you. They were the spirits operating through those people. Your real battle was never with circumstances. It was with principalities and powers that recognized the threat you posed to their kingdom. But on September 29th, the tables turn. The hunter becomes the hunted, the victim becomes the victor. The one who's been under attack steps into their authority as a child of the Most High God. If you're ready to stop running from the battle and start fighting with the weapons heaven has given you, if you're ready to discover that you weren't born to survive but to conquer, then shout it in the comments right now. I was born for battle. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what weapons you've been carrying all along, and why September 29th is the day you finally learn how to use them. But September 29th isn't just about you, beloved. What's about to unfold isn't just your personal breakthrough, it's the seismic shift that redefines your entire bloodline for generations to come. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those weathered fingers, those lines etched by decades of hard work, those scars that tell stories of survival. What if I told you that everything you see as evidence of a life that's winding down is actually proof of a life that's been preparing to break through? You've carried shame, haven't you? Shame about what you couldn't provide. Shame about the dreams you couldn't fulfill. Shame about the patterns you couldn't break. You've looked at your children, your grandchildren, and whispered in your heart, "I failed them. I passed down struggle instead of strength. I gave them survival instead of success." Stop, right there. That's shame. It's not from God. That's the enemy's greatest lie, convincing you that your story ends in disappointment when God is about to reveal it begins in deliverance. Every curse that has stalked your family tree for generations, the addiction that claimed your father, the poverty that plagued your parents, the depression that haunted your siblings, the dysfunction that defined your childhood, it all stops on September 29th. Not just pauses, stops forever. You see, chosen one, God doesn't just break chains, He obliterates them. He doesn't just interrupt patterns, He rewrites the entire program. And He's chosen you, yes, you, in your 70s, 80s, 90s, to be the one who says, "No more. Not on my watch, not in my bloodline." Joel 2:25 thunders with promise, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." But here's what most preachers won't tell you, that restoration isn't just backward looking, it's forward flowing. God isn't just giving you back what you lost, He's multiplying it through your lineage for generations you'll never meet. Think about Abraham, 75 years old when God called him childless, seemingly past his prime. But when God spoke blessing over his life, it wasn't just for Abraham. Genesis 12:2 declares, "I will make you a great nation. and I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing. A blessing, not just blessed, a pipeline of blessing for nations yet unborn. That's you on September 29th. Your granddaughter, struggling with that eating disorder, she's about to witness something in you that breaks the spirit of self-destruction that's been passed down through 3 generations. Your grandson, lost in addiction, he's about to see a power activate in your life that shatters every chain of bondage that's held your family captive. Your great-grandchildren, not yet born, they're going to inherit a legacy of victory instead of defeat because you refuse to accept that generational curses were your family's permanent address. But here's the part that will shock you. The very struggles that have defined your family line aren't accidents, they're assignments. God allowed those patterns to persist until the right person at the right time with the right heart would rise up and say, "Enough." That person is you. That time is now. September 29th is your moment. Psalm 92:14 proclaims something that should make your spirit soar. They still bear fruit in old age. They stay fresh and green. Fresh and green. Not dried up. Not finished. Not forgotten. At the very season when the world expects you to fade, God expects you to flourish. And that flourishing, it's not just for you. It's the seed that grows into a forest of blessing for every life connected to yours. You're not planting a tree, beloved. You're planting a forest for grandchildren you'll never meet. Every prayer you pray from September 29th forward carries compound interest. Every act of faith multiplies through your bloodline. Every breakthrough you experience becomes the foundation for breakthroughs in generations to come. This is why the attack on your life has been so vicious. This is why the enemy has thrown everything at you. Poverty, sickness, betrayal, disappointment. He saw something you're just now beginning to see. He saw the generational curse breaker. He saw the bloodline shifter. He saw the one who would stand up and declare, "The cycle ends here." But his time is up. Your time is now. September 29th is the day your great-great-granddaughter will read about in her family history. The day she'll point to and say, "That's when everything changed. That's when great-great-grandma rose up and broke every chain that tried to bind our family. That's when our story shifted from survival to success, from struggle to strength, from curse to blessing." This isn't the end of your story, chosen one. This is the beginning of theirs. Every child in your bloodline, born and unborn, is counting on what you do on September 29th. Not consciously, not knowingly, but spiritually, they're all leaning in, waiting for the moment when you finally understand that your life was never just about you. You were called to be a history maker, a cycle breaker, a generational shifter. The question that will determine the destiny of every person who carries your DNA is this: will you accept the assignment? Will you step into the authority that's been waiting for you your entire life? Will you become the ancestor your descendants thank God for? Because September 29th is the day your family line remembers you as the one who broke the chain. Declare it right now, out loud, with the authority of someone who understands their divine assignment. It ends with me, it begins with me. But knowing your generational assignment is only the beginning. Because what's about to be released in your life on September 29th requires more than just understanding, it requires activation. And that activation comes through a revelation that will shake you to your core. Listen to me, dear one. Right now, as I speak these words, something extraordinary is happening in the spiritual realm. The moving trucks of heaven have pulled up to your old address. Angels are loading boxes. Demons are being evicted. And you're about to discover that everything you thought was permanent in your life was actually temporary. You don't live there anymore. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been residing at the same spiritual address, the house of not enough, the neighborhood of too late, the zip code of forgotten by God. You've grown so accustomed to that address that you stopped believing you could live anywhere else. But heaven has issued new papers. Your spiritual citizenship has been updated. Your forwarding address has been changed. You don't belong there anymore. Think about Abraham, 75 years old, an age when most men are planning their funeral arrangements, not their future. But Genesis 12:1 records the moment everything changed. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." 75 years old, and God was asking him to move, not just down the street, not just to the next town. God was asking him to leave everything familiar and follow a promise he couldn't see to a place he'd never been. The world called it foolishness. Heaven called it faith. And what happened? That old man became the father of nations. His seed multiplied like the stars in the sky. His name became a blessing that echoes through eternity. Why? Because he was willing to change his address when heaven called for relocation. You're not who you were anymore. But let me ask you something that might cut deep. How long have you been living in the wrong neighborhood? How many years have you been sleeping in a bed that was never meant for your destiny? How many decades have you been answering to an address that expired before you were even born? The poverty that followed your family for generations, that's not your permanent address. The sickness that seems to visit every holiday, that's not your zip code. The loneliness that sits at your kitchen table every morning, that's not your assigned dwelling place. Heaven is saying tonight, pack your bags, we're moving you. You see, most people think moving means changing houses. But when God moves you, He changes dimensions. He doesn't just relocate your furniture, He renovates your future. He doesn't just give you a new address, He gives you a new identity. Israel understood this. For 400 years they lived at the same address, slavery. For 4 centuries they woke up to the same neighborhood, bondage. Their zip code never changed, suffering in Egypt. They grew so accustomed to their chains that they forgot they were prisoners. But in one night, one supernatural night, everything shifted. Exodus 12:41 declares, "At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt." To the very day, not approximately, not eventually, to the very day that God had appointed. September 29th is your very day. The moving trucks of heaven have arrived, and everything about your address is changing. Your financial address is shifting from lack to abundance. Your health address is being updated from sickness to wholeness. Your relational address is being forwarded from loneliness to divine connections. But here's what's going to shock you about this holy migration. You're not moving alone. Heaven has been preparing your new neighbors. Divine connections have already been positioned at your new address. Opportunities have been pre-approved. Miracles have been pre-ordered. Your new address comes furnished with favor. The pantry is already stocked with provision. The mailbox is already full of answered prayers. The phone is already ringing with opportunities you never applied for. But some of you are still standing at your old doorstep, holding the keys to a house that's been condemned by heaven. You're looking back at familiar dysfunction instead of forward to divine destiny. You're mourning the loss of comfortable misery instead of celebrating the gift of uncomfortable breakthrough. Let me tell you what's waiting at your new address. Assignments so significant that heaven had to prepare you for decades before you could handle them. Relationships so authentic that they had to wait until you were healed enough to receive them. Resources so abundant that they required your character to be refined before you could steward them. At your new address, your prayers don't echo in empty rooms, they command angels into action. At your new address, your voice doesn't whisper in the dark, it thunders with authority. At your new address, you're not the victim of your story, you're the victor writing your legacy. Abraham left his father's house at 75 and became the father of faith. Moses left Pharaoh's palace at 80 and became the deliverer of nations. Anna stayed at the temple until 84 and became the first to proclaim the Messiah. Your age isn't disqualifying you from this migration, it's qualifying you for it. The very wrinkles on your face are proof you survived the wilderness. The gray in your hair is evidence you've earned the wisdom to handle what's next. The trembling in your hands isn't weakness, it's anticipation of the power you're about to wield. But you have to be willing to leave. You have to be willing to close the door on who you were, to walk through the door of who you're becoming. You have to be willing to say goodbye to the familiar pain, to say hello to the unfamiliar purpose. The question that will determine your destiny is this: when heaven's moving trucks arrive, will you get in, or will you wave goodbye from the porch of your old limitations? If you're ready to move, if you're tired of living at the wrong address, in the wrong dimension, with the wrong identity, then declare it right now. Type in the comments, forwarding address, heaven's purpose. Because chosen one, the lease on your old life expires September 29th. And what's waiting at your new address will take your breath away. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious gems in your heart. First, September 29th isn't just a date on your calendar, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The wait that has defined your life is over. The preparation that seemed endless has reached its completion. You are stepping from the season of almost into the season of at last. Second, the holy migration we've talked about isn't optional, it's inevitable. Heaven has already processed your change of address. The moving trucks are loaded. Your new identity, your fresh assignment, your supernatural elevation, it's all waiting at coordinates only God could calculate. And third, you were never meant to carry the old limitations into your new dimension. The person who started watching this message and the person receiving this blessing right now, they live in different realms entirely. But here's what I need you to understand with crystal clarity. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the migration feels overwhelming, even when you can't see the full blueprint of what God is building, the same God who called Abraham from his homeland, who led Israel through the wilderness, who transformed fishermen into apostles, is orchestrating every detail of your breakthrough right now. He's moving mountains you can't see. He's opening doors you haven't found yet. He's preparing people to bless you in ways that will leave you speechless. And right here, in this community of believers who've walked this same journey, you have thousands of prayer warriors ready to intercede on your behalf. We see you. We believe in you. We will stand with you. So let me ask you this. Now that you know September 29th is your divine appointment, now that you understand the holy migration has begun, now that you've felt the stirring of heaven's purpose in your chest, what will you do with this revelation? Will you step boldly into your new address, or will you let fear convince you to stay at the old one? Before you answer that question, join me in prayer. Wherever you are right now, I want you to close your eyes and feel my hand on your shoulder as we bring your future before the throne of grace. Heavenly Father, Creator of all that is and ever will be, I come before you now carrying every precious soul who has heard this word tonight. Lord, you see their hearts. You know their struggles. You've counted every tear they've shed in the wilderness, every prayer they've whispered in the darkness, every moment they've wondered if you remembered their name. But tonight, Father, we declare that the waiting is over. September 29th is their divine appointment, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what you have ordained for their lives. Break every chain of limitation that has held them back. Dissolve every curse that has haunted their bloodline. Open every door that has remained closed. God, I pray for supernatural favor to flood their lives. Give them divine connections that accelerate their purpose. Provide resources beyond their ability to earn or imagine. Grant them health that defies medical reports, relationships that reflect your heart, and opportunities that prove you are still the God of the impossible. Father, comfort their hearts during this transition. When fear whispers lies about their age, their past, or their qualifications, let your voice thunder louder with the truth of their calling. Surround them with your peace that surpasses understanding. Fill them with joy that no circumstance can steal. Strengthen them with power that flows from your throne. Most of all, Lord, let them feel your presence right now. In this very moment, let them know beyond any doubt that they are loved, they are chosen, they are never alone. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release these blessings over their lives. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us how God spoke to your heart tonight. What shifted in your spirit during this message? What are you believing Him for as September 29th approaches? Don't keep this encounter to yourself. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And please, share this message with someone who feels forgotten, someone who's been waiting, someone who needs to know their breakthrough is closer than they think. There are people in your life right now who need to understand they're not random, they're chosen. Help us reach them. If this is your first time joining our community of believers, welcome home. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Every week, we gather here to discover more about your divine identity, to unpack the calling on your life, and to build a family of faith that refuses to let anyone walk alone. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for believing that God still speaks, for daring to hope that your greatest days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. September 29th is coming, chosen one. Your holy migration has begun, and I cannot wait to hear how God shows up in your story. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are, rest in the promise of what's coming, and remember you are loved, you are chosen, and you are never, ever alone. The wait is over. Your time is now. Go in peace. Go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that heaven itself is cheering you on. Amen.